So right here we have this controversial book called Arthur Koestler, The 13th Tribe, the startling new discovery about the true ancestry of the Jewish people. It will cause a stir and most likely get you banned if you say something out of line, because we all know that the Anti-Defamation League, or whatever they call themselves, they're real strict on who says their names and so forth. As I stated in many of my older videos, so-called black and so-called white are corporate destinations. Follow the money trail. Now we're at page 20, the 13th Tribe, and it states, a Georgian chronicle echoing an ancient tradition identifies them with the host of Gog and Magog, wild men with hideous faces and manners of wild beasts, eaters of blood. I made plenty of videos about certain wild men in the medieval times. Even when you look at the 1400 tapestry of the Moors, what do you see? Wild men. Reading on, an Armenian writer refers to the horrible multitude of Khazars with insolent, broad, lashless faces and long falling hair like women. Lastly, the Arab geographer Yashar'el, pronounced that right, one of the main Arab sources, has this to say: the Khazars do not resemble the Turks. They are black-haired and are of two kinds, one called the Kara Khazars, black Khazars, who are swarthy, verging on deep black, as if they were a kind of Indian, and a white kind, Khazars, who are strikingly handsome. This is more flattering, but only adds to the confusion, for it was customary among Turkish people to refer to the ruling classes or clans, get this right here, white, to the lower strata as black. Now it all starts to make sense. Now we have Mr. Dr. Martin Luther King, a boule Negro, I should say, in an idol set up for so-called black people to get them back in line. But like I say, follow the money trail, okay? Now we're in this book, 100 Amazing Facts About the Negro with Complete Proof by J.A. Rogers. So we're on page 48, miscellaneous. Black and colored, on the other hand, have no historic meaning whatever for African peoples. Black from the Anglo-Saxon, black has the most horrible meanings. See any large dictionary. Color is related to Latin claire, to conceal, to color up, to paint a thing other than its true light. Thus, the tendency to declare Negro on the ground that it means slavery is sheer ignorance. That's why I state that they believe that black equals slavery, white equals slave master, the historical narrative, and small-minded people. Reading on, for instance, a Negro newspaper took a poll of its readers some years ago, and they chose colored. But as the Jim Crow car, that greatest degrader of American citizenship, is usually marked colored. The majority of this paper's circulation is in the South. Did they choose colored so as to be in the line with Jim Crow policy? Still another paper used race man, which makes the uninitiated think of the racetrack. Another very racial group chooses black, which, as was said, is positively a white man's word. So now we're back at the book, 100 Amazing Facts About the Negro. We're going to read the blue. Black and colored, like white, are on the other hand European words. Ethiopian and Moor were popularly used to describe the so-called blacks until 1500. Shakespeare uses Negro only once and uses it synonymously with Moor. So now we're back at the book, The 13th Tribe, and it states, thus, Jacobi, a 9th century Arab historian, traces the origin of the Khazars back to Japheth, the third son of Noah. And I believe that Ham, Shem, and Japheth were all people of color, so-called black. Japheth's motive reoccurs frequently in the literature, while the other legends connect them with Abraham or Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great was known as the he-goat, okay? Reading on, it mentions the Khazars in a list of people who inhabited the region of the Caucasus. Other sources indicate that they were already much in evidence a century earlier and intimately connected with the Huns. So now we're on page 34, and it states, from a chronological point of view, the next event to be discussed should be the conversion of the Khazars to Judaism around AD 740. But to see that remarkable event in its proper perspective, one should have at least some sketchy idea of the habits, customs, and everyday life among the Khazars prior to the conversion. Now we're on page 38, and we're going to read some of the highlighted points. Although they lead a hard life, they behave like donkeys. They have lost their way. They have no religion which would link them to God. Keyword, link them to God. Nor are they guided by reason. They do not worship anything. So right here we have the classic reprints, the wild man, medieval myth, and symbolism. But is it really a myth when you look at the tapestry and the history and it all interconnects? And it states, although the wild man could hardly be suspected of overweening faith, medieval authors stress not that the wild man was without belief in God, but that he was utterly without knowledge of him. So now we're in the book of Hebrews, chapter 12, verse 16. Lest there be any fornicator or profane person as Esau, who for one morsel of meat sold his birthright. So let's look up the word profane. And it states profane adjective, unholy, not sacred, not consecrated, of persons not initiated, whence in late Latin, ignorant, unlearned, also wicked, impious. So right here we're at the Zondervan's Compact Bible Dictionary, and it states unlawful sexual intercourse. So all fornication is sexual perversion, which today we will call homosexuality and so forth. Now we're in the book of Romans, chapter 1. We're going to start at verse 27. And likewise also the men, leaving the natural use of the woman, and burned in their lust one towards another, man with man, working that which is unseemly, and receiving in themselves that recompense of their error which was met. And even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them over to a reprobate mind to do those things which are not convenient, being filled with all unrighteousness, fornication, wickedness, covetousness, maliciousness, full of envy, murder, debate, deceit, malignity, whispers. So right here we have Alvin or Al Goldstein, born January 10th, 1936 through December 19, 2003, was an American pornographer. He is known for helping normalize hardcore pornography in the United States. So these are some of his views on religion, and it states, Luke Ford wrote about a conversation with Goldstein in which Ford asked Goldstein why Jews were dramatically overrepresented in the porn industry. He answered, the only reason that Jews are in pornography is that we think that Christ sucks, Catholicism sucks, we don't believe in authoritarianism. Pornography thus becomes a way of defiling Christian culture, and as it penetrates to the very heart of the American mainstream and is no doubt consumed by those very same WASPs. Ford then asked, what does it mean to you to be a Jew? Which Goldstein responded, it doesn't mean anything. Interesting. Ford also asked, do you believe in God? Goldstein said, I believe in me. I am God. Screw God. God is your need to believe in some super being. I am the super being. I am your God. Admit it. We're random. We're the flea on the butt of a dog. So when you go to the scriptures and read the New Testament, which is just the new covenant, it states, I know thy works and tribulation, the poverty, but thou art rich. And I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Ha-Satan. Revelations 3:9, behold, I will make them the synagogue of Ha-Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them come to worship before thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee. So who are the real 12 tribes of Israel? So now we're back at the book, the 13th Tribe, and it states, the sexual mores of the Khazars and other tribes were a remarkable mixture of liberalism, keyword liberalism, and savagery. Their women wear no veils in the presence of their men or strangers, nor do the women cover any parts of their bodies in the presence of people. One day we stayed at the place of the Khazars and were sitting around. His wife was also present. As we conversed, the woman uncovered her private parts and scratched them, and we all saw it. Thereupon we discovered our faces and said, may God forgive me. The husband laughed and said to the interpreter, tell them we uncover it in your presence so that you may see and refrain yourselves, but it cannot be attained. This is better than when it is covered up and yet attainable. Adultery is alien to them. But this is a real interesting book. And when you put the pieces together, it starts to make sense. So I'm just here for my popcorn and watch the show, The Truman Show, right?